Hello, good morning. I'm Heather, and I'm here in an attempt to try to help myself process through a situation that I find to be extremely difficult. Um, and I imagine it's actually not that uncommon. So I'm gonna, try to leave out. I mean, with the exception of the people who happen to know who I live with, most of the people aren't gonna be able to figure out who specifically I'm talking about. But I am gonna read some actual texts between us because I feel like it's important as I'm trying to come to an understanding of where I came to a place where I cannot conceive of her perspective and she clearly cannot conceive of my perspective. And um but the overarching thing is I don't want to move. And my guess is she doesn't want to move. She's made it pretty clear she intends to stay. Um yet um I currently don't feel like I can actually even share a space with her. Like I can't be in the kitchen if she's there. I can't be in the living room if she's there. I don't even, yeah. So that feels also unworkable. And what it came down to last night, and I'll read these texts in just a moment, but we had a house meeting that went really, really poorly, in my opinion. And I had I had in the everyone else except for this person in the house has agreed that regular house meetings is a really good idea. And this person's unwilling to. She's like, yeah, go ahead and schedule it. I probably won't come, but go ahead and schedule it. So, she's made it very. She's closing in kind of any opportunities for discussion. That's the piece that I think is the hardest is when I know that there's an issue between myself and someone else. And originally I thought it was workable, but we have to be able to talk in order to work through it. And she's unwilling to talk. So, all right. So I'll go back. I moved into this house um, in late December. And we didn't really try to, make agreements or do anything until just a couple of months ago. And we had a house meeting. And I thought that we had come out of that house meeting with an agreement amongst everyone, including this person, that particularly since all of the sound from upstairs comes directly into our downstairs basement apartment, that quiet hours between 10:30 p.m. and 7:30 a.m. I thought was the agreement, and that doesn't mean like silence. It just means you know try to walk softly when you're upstairs after those hours, and keep your voices low, and try not to bang cabinets, and definitely don't use the washer and the dryer because they're right over my bed. So that's what I thought we'd agreed to. So, about I don't know a few weeks after that meeting at 12:45 at night on a Thursday night. No, I guess it looks like it's a Friday. Um, no, it started at 11 actually. Because I was really clear that we had an agreement not using the dryer after 10:30. So at 11, I said, please do not run the dryer after 10. This was to the whole house. The new one is quieter than the last one, but I still cannot sleep through it. Thank you. And then at 12:45, I was woken up by very loud laughing, and could tell there were multiple people upstairs, but there was only one person that I could hear, and it was the housemate. And the dryer was actually still running. Somehow I had gone to sleep through it, but it was still running. I said, please, can quiet hours be observed on the main floor? I thought we had agreed to after 10:30. I'm not able to sleep through the dryer being used and the laughter and voices moving around on the main floor. No response. I didn't really expect one necessarily, but not long after I sent that text, that it got quiet upstairs. So I thought, oh, they must have seen it, and they, went on their own way. The next morning at 9:30, I said, good morning. Thank you for leaving the main floor last night soon after my message. Low voices, gentle steps, and sitting on the front living room rather than the table would have probably all been fine. I know y'all are night owls, and I think I can sleep through those things. The sounds that woke me up were the loud laughter, moving the chairs on the floor, cupboards and dishes banging, and the dryer starting and stopping and running. Please remember that sound travels down here very well. I know accidental sounds will happen sometimes, and I can be reasonable about that, but please treat the main floor as the quiet area after 10:30. Thank you. So, the next message, she messaged me directly, not to the house text, but just me directly. Um, about half an hour later after I sent that morning text. I did not vacate the main floor after reading your text. I didn't read it until now. We don't have a curfew in this house. That's never been a thing. They're general suggestions and general awareness and adaptability, but we have never made hard and fast rules. There's 6 people here with all different lifestyles and schedules. We're going to hear some noise sometimes, and sometimes at odd hours. If me walking around the kitchen and talking to my friend while eating a meal is that intense for you, I would suggest to get some earbuds, because that sort of thing will keep happening. It also may be that this is just not the right fit for you. I work too hard to be micromanaged by anyone. I understand you have sensitive and special needs, but they are yours, and I do not consider them my responsibility. I also have my own, and so does everyone else here, and yet for the most part, we keep them to ourselves and don't require anyone to follow special restrictions or rules. You seem to need a lot of those. Please do not text me petty requests about noise. That is disturbing to me. Your lifestyle is not more valid than mine or anyone else's. Just as you may sleep early in the evening, I do not, and I never have. That is not my lifestyle, and I do not plan on altering it for you, nor could I if I wanted to. I'm sure that may sound harsh. It's not personal. I'm just done with compromising myself for anything. Um, I got very upset receiving that message. The tone I just read it in is not the tone I received it in. Um, and I did not respond right away because I believe in not texting. Um, I don't believe in texting like really activating stuff or when I'm really activated because obviously that leads to issues. So at 3:30, after some discussion with my partner, and by running my text by him first, um, I said, "Thank you for your response. We don't appear to have matching memories of the House meeting in March, where I recall us agreeing to quiet hours from 10:30 to 7:30. Are you open to a House meeting this week to discuss how we can co-create an arrangement that might work for all of us?" A couple hours later, she responded, "No, you are the only one having this issue. I don't feel a meeting is necessary. I recommend buying some earbuds. It is true I may have a different memory than you, but it is not what I agreed, because that doesn't match my lifestyle. And having friends over on a Friday, my weekend, is very normal behavior that I don't intend to stop doing." Okay. So that was, unfortunately, let's see, what was the date on that? Because that's kind of important. So that was back on May 8th. And here it is, June 2nd. And we finally had a House meeting last night. And so earlier in the House meeting, I had said, look, I feel like it's extremely important that we have regular meetings. We need to have an opportunity to check in and talk and cover stuff that might have come up. And so are y'all open to having a regular meeting time where we, meet every couple of weeks for about an hour? And actually, we had a potential housemate who was present. During the interview with him, I had asked him, "Are you willing to invest at least an hour every couple of weeks into into your house, your home, and ensuring that we're all like kind of on the same page? And if there's anything we need to talk about." And he said, "Yeah." And she was like, "No, I probably won't." and I'm like, okay. So what we'd come to is we can go ahead and set a house meeting, and either she'll come or she won't. Fine. But then, as we were, we had already been in the House meeting for a little while, and then I said, okay, what I also want to say that she had brought up texting and emails. That's what it was. She had brought up texting and emails, and like, let's keep as much business as possible to texting and emails. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. However, what I am not available for is receiving texts from from anyone when they are activated and strongly worded. And, essentially, if there's any part of, I'm sorry if this is harsh, energy, if you have to write that in the text, that's a really good sign. That should not be sent in text. And I ask for a conversation instead. Unfortunately, it immediately devolved because she um, said, I didn't say that. The part about if it's, I'm sorry if this is harsh. Yes, you did. And so, like, from a foundational piece, like, we didn't even have a basic understanding. And she's like, I wasn't activated. And, and I was like, okay. uh, if you had sent, oh, wait, there was another message to the house. That's right. There was another message that she sent much later to the house. Let's see, when was that? Monday. So several days later, she sends a message to the house this time, not just to me. Seems like a simple misunderstanding. We've never had a curfew or any official quiet hours here, just general agreements of courtesy and adaptability. With 6 people, each with all different lifestyles and schedules that keep changing, there's really no one schedule that applies to all of us. We're going to hear some noise sometimes, and sometimes at odd hours. I know it can be an adjustment when you're new to a household, from trains, planes, and automobiles to neighbors and construction work. There's often lots going on. Best bet is to get a good set of noise-canceling earbuds, because there's simply no all-encompassing solution to noise here other than to just accept it. So honestly, if that had been the first message that I received, I still would have been kind of disappointed. And, like, I feel like there's an opportunity for a discussion here. I feel like there's clearly, yes, there's a misunderstanding. There's still a misunderstanding present. So let's please talk about it. But since we'd already had that other interaction where she's like, no, I don't want to talk about this. I just felt locked and frozen and had no idea how to move forward. So it became very clear in the meeting last night that she's like, no, I won't make agreements about quiet hours. And I'll show up to house meetings when I feel like it. And, I'm unwilling to invest the time and energy to discussing things that you need. I don't ask you for things, she says. And so I don't expect you to ask me for things, and I'm not going to do them. Your requests are petty. She kept saying they were petty. And I don't even, one of the other requests that I've made is, turns out that I have a chemical sensitivity to fragrance, especially in laundry detergent. So can you all please use unscented laundry detergent? I will provide it even. Because honestly, I cannot breathe with certain chemicals. So I can't go outside when somebody's using the dryer, which is often. I can't have my door open for fresh air if somebody's using the dryer. I can't even actually go in the laundry room for more than 24 hours after somebody's used fragrance stuff in there. So it limits my ability to navigate my own home. And honestly, she didn't say that one. She hasn't said even what's petty. I just honestly don't believe any of the requests that I've made are in any way, shape, or form petty. I genuinely feel that they are reasonable requests to make of people that I live with. I wouldn't ask, if we had a shared laundry room in an apartment complex, I know I can't ask everybody to use unscented fragrance there. But in a house, I feel like I can make that request and it's not petty. So And, she honestly, I'm embarrassed because I ended up leaving. I left the meeting. Cause I was like, we're not even talking about the same thing. Cause she kept saying, you're saying that there's a problem with me having a friend over. I'm like, no, that's not the issue at all. The issue is I thought we had an agreement about quiet hours, and now I'm finding we don't, and that you're not even willing to discuss. You're not even willing to have conversations about ways that we can live together more harmoniously. And she kept talking over me. I know I talked over her too. And I was like, just please let me finish a thought before you interrupt. And that didn't go anywhere. So I got extremely activated, extremely triggered. I was shaking. I couldn't even get a deep breath in anymore. I knew it had devolved. I couldn't seem to get out of it. I kept taking like deep breaths and trying to recenter. And she would drag us right back to the point that I'm like, that's not the point. Will you please listen to the point I'm trying to make? It's not about you having a friend over on a Friday night. So now where it feels like there's at least one person in the house that I cannot have conversations with. I cannot make requests of. I cannot come to a place where we are able to agree, or not even agree, but even like, yeah, agree on what the topic is. We're not even able to agree on what the topic is. And that a big piece of what's really difficult for me is the fact that she's unwilling to talk. She perceives talking to be all drama and, too much processing. And I kept saying, if I asked you for a meeting, and I think now I see in my text, it did say house meeting, and it could have been a one-on-one, but I actually also asked my partner, like, I can't talk to her. Can you help facilitate a meeting for the three of us so that you're there, like, as a mediator, and we can have a conversation? And unfortunately, that didn't happen. And so I feel like if we had had a conversation to talk about this much sooner, a great deal of my energy that's been wasted would have been saved. Because at least then much sooner I would have understand that my foundational understanding, my foundational like perception of the situation was inaccurate. Because if I'm coming from a place of, oh, this is a reasonable conversation, we had an agreement, I made a request that we stick to the agreement, and so we just need to come back to a conversation about, okay, what is our agreement and what does it mean? And in fact, the foundation is, and I also was coming from the foundational belief that we were living in a home together, and that we all felt invested in having, in that everyone feel at least some modicum of safety in their home. But the foundation now that I have to come from and perceive is, okay, I live with someone who is quite loud, walks very heavily. Honestly, I can't tell when anyone else in the house is walking around in the living room, unless I'm like really listening, except for her. She's the only one I can hear. She's generally the only one who uses the dryer after like 10:30 at night, or the washing machine. She's generally the only one who's up in the middle of the night. And so she's the one who's directly impacting my quality of life. And I have to figure out how to live within what she's willing to do, which is nothing. She's like, I'm going to be my full self. I am not compromising anything. And it is unreasonable for you to ask me to do that. And there's an aspect of that I understand. I mean, there's so much of me that has been, told, you're too loud, you're too much, do this differently, be different, and so I've navigated that my entire life. Like, I understand that. And I understand that there is definitely space for me to be bigger and have more voice and make requests, in the world. um, and I believe that there's a space where somebody's behavior is outside of like outside of what's reasonable. That it's okay to say, hey, can you try. I used to live in another house with a housemate who was a very light sleeper, and we had a very creaky house. And unfortunately, the sound of my footsteps traveled very well from the downstairs to the upstairs where she was. And we honestly talked about it a great deal. And she would bring my attention to it often. And my response, while also kind of frustrated, I'm like, fuck, I'm just fucking walking here. Like, how much energy can I exert in paying attention to how much I'm fucking walking? I cared about her, and I wanted to find a way to make it work. And we did eventually come to a place where I pretty rarely woke her up. I did still sometimes. Like, I would have a overabundance of joy, and I would kind of jump up in my room, and I'm like, oh shit, it's quiet hours. And sometimes I woke her up, and I would apologize. That's another thing that's making me fucking crazy is this woman never apologizes for anything. She even stated that. She's like, I make no apologies. I do not apologize for anything ever. And I was like, I know, that's clear. And I also find that to be unreasonable, honestly. Someone saying, I won't apologize for anything ever, I think is a pretty extreme stance, and one that is maybe not particularly conducive to living with others. Okay. So I'm not going to figure it out in this particular message. I know that. I'm not going to figure it out right now. But here's what's before me is I find that when I'm presented with something that feels really, really hard and really emotionally charged, that if I can come to a place of what can I learn from this? How can I be better next time in a situation like this? What can I learn about myself? That I'm actively attempting to shift to that place rather than this place of grief and of, like, oh, I had this whole perception that was completely inaccurate and I have to let it go. And I really thought it was a reasonable perception to have. And so here I am, she's saying, I am unwilling to make any accommodations for you whatsoever. And I am actually I'm having to now do all of these accommodations to be in the same house as her. So she's unwilling to make any accommodations, and I have to make a fuck ton. Not for her. That's true. I don't have to make any fucking accommodations for her. She's not asking for them, except for she's saying, don't ask me to be quieter. Don't ask me to do anything different than I'm doing. That's the accommodation she demands. Don't ask me to do anything differently than I'm doing. It just, yeah, brings up this thing about you're giving away your power by asking for any accommodations. You're giving away your power. You have your own power. Take your power back and figure it out for yourself. I feel like we've reached this stage of this place where she's in a place of hyper individualism, which I consider to be like that level of extremity of hyper individualism is is an issue, is a trauma response, is like this is something that can be healed, but you need to be aware of it. And it's I don't know. I know that I've been in a place where I didn't feel like I could make any requests of anyone, and maybe not to the extreme that she's saying, but that was a very painful and lonely place to be. And it was only through my practice of learning how to identify what my requests are and desires and needs, and then make requests based on those, has been a real journey. And then to allow myself to receive the response of giving and love and support and willingness. Um, so I'm in a place where I'm having a different experience where I it is not available for me to make requests, or it doesn't matter if I've identified needs or desires. It's not available for me to make any requests. So I either learn to deal with it and not let it bother me, or I move out, and I don't want to move out at this current stage. I'm not prepared for that at all. So, all right, all right. That feels like a stopping point. So I'm hoping that what frequently happens for me is once I've had the chance to like really say what it is that's bothering me, and then I can go away from it for a little bit, let it lie. What I'm hoping is that a new level of awareness or understanding will come to me. Um, and now that I've kind of cleared some space of all of that, and I'm going to go outside where it is sunny and quiet right now, and I'm going to do some yoga and drink some more water and take it from there. Thank you for being on the receiving end. Um, I invite, responses. I guess I could be specific about the responses. Like, I don't know how to explain where like, don't give me advice. Like, don't tell me what to do. But if you've had, like, I don't want or need that necessarily. But I guess if you have an experience that feels similar, like, how did you handle it? Um, yeah, I guess that's actually what I really like to hear. Um, or just kind of that active listening, reflecting. That kind of response. Um, or I know that I also respond really well when I hear someone saying, I feel like I really understand what you're saying. I've been there," or "That sounds really hard," or I don't know. Those are just some requests that are coming to mind. But I know that I have everything I need, that I have the skills and the tools and the wisdom to figure out how to navigate this. Because this is just a microcosm experience. Out in the world, there's an awful lot of people who don't give a fuck whether or not they impact me. They don't care, and they're not going to do anything different than they currently are. And so, as a extraordinarily sensitive person, um, I'm going to feel a larger impact from that kind of behavior and response. And I need to learn how to live in a world where that's very present. So here I am learning in the example of this particular relationship how I can navigate and feel safe and feel comfortable and feel myself in my home, regardless of who else is around. Okay, that's it. All right. Thank you for being on the receiving end.